For decades, the land of Grimgalia was gripped by perpetual warfare. Humans fought dwarves, elves fought gnomes, dragonborn fought halflings. From horizon to horizon, from the rugged highlands of the bearded mountains to the fertile valley of the crescent shore, armies of conscripts marched relentlessly into combat. At the height of the war, it was said that if you stood atop the bearded mountains and looked down towards the ocean, all you would see from horizon to horizon was smoke from burning farmland, the only sound the distant screams of terrified civilians. But all of that changed with the coming of the World Games. 49 years ago, an armistice was signed. On that day, each of the 7 major races, the humans, the elves, the dwarfs, the halflings, the gnomes, the dragonborn and the tiefling, gathered together at the Spire, the great meeting place at the center of the continent, and there, before the gods, they made a solemn pledge. From that day forward, there would be no more bloodshed. Instead of fighting one another on the battlefield, the races would instead do their fighting in friendly competition. Since that day, once a year, each of the major races selects a team of representatives to travel to the Spire for the summer solstice. There they compete in front of the watching eyes of the world in a 2-day event to determine which race shall rule over the land. For whichever team wins the tournament, that race is then granted control over the ruling council for the next 12 months. The ruling council comprises representatives from each of the 7 races, but everyone knows that it's whoever holds the chair that holds the council. Thus, the World Games are seen as the most important day in Grimgalia's calendar. For winning is not just a matter of patriotic pride, it is one of vital civic importance. This year is the 50th anniversary of the Games, a special bicentennial event marked by weeks of festivities, firework displays, and feasting. So the Olympics are going on at the moment in the real world, and so to commemorate this event, I thought I would share with you a one-shot which I created a couple of years ago, the last time that the Olympics were on. And this is basically my attempt to answer the question, what if the Olympics but D&D? This is a one-shot for 4 level 5 or 6 characters, depending on how easy you want to make it, I guess. I have, however, run the one-shot with 5 characters and just changed a few of the details along the way, and to be honest with you, that worked well as well. Start with the party having travelled to the games to watch them take place. Whether it be through begging, bartering, stealing, or legitimate purchase, each of the members of your party have managed to secure a ticket to watch the opening ceremony in the Spire. This is a very big deal in this world. The party enters the Spire on a wave of cheering and jubilant flag waving. Much like the Roman Colosseum, the Spire is made up of stacked rows of tiered seatings, but obviously this is a fantasy world, so here they stretch high up into the sky, so high that you can't even see the sky from inside, just tiers and tiers of seating that seem to merge together in the distance, thus giving it the name Spire. The atmosphere in the arena is intense. There must be about 100,000 spectators here, all of them cheering for their race. Obviously, this is a magical world, so we have magical arcane lights and special viewing screens, which are basically just like arcane eyes, positioned at multiple points throughout the arena to give spectators close-up views of replays and everything taking place. But of course, as in the real world, when we go to watch a sporting event, the best seats are down at the bottom, closest to the action, which just so happens to be where your party are sitting. How about that? And from their seats, your party have an excellent view of the different teams who are already warming up in the middle of the field, going through some last-minute practice. So at this point, I would give your party the chance to, of course, meet each other, settle in, and kind of ask questions about the arena and the various combatants that they see. So I'm going to give a lot of detail here to help you as a DM kind of flesh all of this out. But I would say please note that a lot of this information is not really relevant to the actual adventure and can probably be skipped. It's just here in case people ask. It's like that, you know. Where these things are really important, I will of course flag that and let you know. But I would suggest at this beginning stage, giving your party a little bit of time just to kind of warm up and get to know each other and have fun with the new characters that they have. Let them kind of role play amongst themselves a bit as they arrive in the stadium. I would suggest, by means of warm up, consider giving each of the members of your party the chance to explain how did they get a ticket to the games in the first place, and to also maybe say what they've been doing over the last couple of days, how they've been spending their time at the festivities, which have obviously been going on for several days by this point. So give them a chance just to kind of get a feel for their character and ease themselves into this world with a couple of kind of warm-up questions. I always find that a good way to get started. And so the teams which are in these events, of course, are the dwarves, who are led by Bastian Crabhammer. He's this wild-eyed barbarian who basically never bathes as a matter of luck. Most of his teeth are missing. On an insight roll of 15, you could learn that they look like they're a very strong team, but you're fairly sure most of them are drunk. The Dragonborn team are led by Gonathan Yor, who is an erudite red Dragonborn bard who pounds a drum to keep in time. On an insight check of 15, you could learn here that the Dragonborn seem to be a very well-drilled team, though their leader doesn't seem to allow them very much room for individual expression, as he insists that they stick to specific moves and combinations which are dictated by his drumbeat. The elves are led by Helios Vainala, who is a pretentious high elf warlock who blazes with the light of the sun. On an insight check of 15, you would learn that although undeniably talented, possibly the most naturally gifted fighters in this competition, Helios seems to be more interested in scoring style points with the crowd than in actually leading his team to victory. The gnomes, they are led by Yurt Melanki, who is a hooded rogue with big scared eyes. On an insight check of 15, you'll learn that these guys look to be the least well-prepared team here. The halflings, they are led by Borgen Bagshot, who is a swashbuckling pirate rogue with a huge grin on his face and a pet parrot, and he fights with a hooked hand. On an insight check of 15, you would learn that Borgen definitely looks like he's up for it, but almost too much up for it. He either has a chip on his shoulder or he has a point to prove, but you can see him almost come to blows a few times with his own teammates. There's the humans, and this one I would mention to the party because they are led by Horton Bellwether, an old bearded wizard with a stereotypical blue robe and pointy hat with silver stars and moons on it. And the rest of the team is made up of 3 blonde-haired, blue-eyed, shirtless fighters who look a little bit like He-Man. They all fight topless. On a perception roll of 15, you are struck by how in sync the humans are. Horton himself seems less like a wizard than he does a conductor in an orchestra, waving his wand like a baton as the fighters move in a dance of swords around him. On an insight check of 15, you are quite far away from the team, but you could have sworn that the fighters look practically identical to each other. Triplets, perhaps? Quite unusual. On a persuasion check of 15, then you can be talking to the crowd to get information, and if you do talk to the crowd, you quickly learn that the smart money is on the humans this year. They've apparently won the competition 6 out of the last 7 years, and the rumour is that Horton may even earn himself a seat on the judging panel at the end of this year's event. On a history check of 15, you'll learn that Horton is a legend of the games, having competed in every single event since its inception. Under his leadership, the humans have won the World Games 6 out of the last 7 years in a row. However, definitely give this information to your party for free. There is no sign of the Tiefling team in the arena. All of the other teams are there warming up. The Tieflings do not appear to be there. Again, on a persuasion check of 15, the party is talking to the crowd to find out what's going on, and they can pick up that no one is very surprised that Tieflings aren't there. Most of the onlookers seem to think that the Tieflings are a waste of space and are only really allowed to participate in the first place out of pity, They aren't even a real race anyway, they say. On a history check of 15, the tieflings you learn have never won the World Games, and this is because, unlike the other races, tieflings have no homeland. Instead, tieflings exist in small numbers in every city in the world. They are largely shunned, and they are forced to eke out a living on the fringes of society, since many of the other races see them as cursed. Having given the party a little bit of time here just to kind of warm up and settle in, you should be about maybe half an hour into the session by this point, at which point you can actually kick the plot off. And the party will suddenly hear an altercation nearby. Near the edge of the arena, right below where they're seated, they will see a tiefling paladin in full armor. This is Marksby Silverwood, the leader of the tiefling team. He looks very battered, he looks very worse for wear, and he's cradling one of his arms, which has clearly been broken in a couple of places. And he is talking with Conrad Leonates, who is a pompous man with a bald head and a pointed oiled beard, who is looking at the tiefling with disdain. Conrad Leonates is the chief adjudicator of the games. Marksby reveals that he was recently assaulted outside his room by masked assailants who shattered his best sword and broke his arm. Even with healing magic, he is unlikely to be 100% in time for the start of the games. Leonates, however, is unsympathetic, telling Marksby that if he cannot compete, he will have to forfeit his team's place in the competition. Marksby is furious at this idea. He tells Leonates how hard his team trained and how good they were this year. They actually stood a genuine chance. But now, half of his team have been wiped out in the last week alone. First with food poisoning, which took out his sorcerer, then an accident made his bard fall down the stairs, and he believes that there is malpractice afoot. Leonates, however, has no time for this. It's clear he thinks very little of the tiefling and seems to believe this is all some sort of demonic trick on Marksby's part to get out of competing.
"What do you expect me to do exactly?" he asks. "Postpone the entire competition until you're feeling better? Typical tiefling shenanigans. The competition will go ahead with or without your involvement. If you're not fit to compete, you shall have to forfeit. There's no shame in that. It's not like you were going to win anyway."
At this point, either the party interjects or Marksby spots them watching and calls over to them and asks for their help. He says that they look like they can handle themselves. He asks, could they please enter the competition in his team's place? They can keep any prize money that they win. He doesn't care about the gold, but he cannot let his people down by forfeiting at this late stage. Leonates, of course, is incensed at this idea.
"These people aren't even tieflings. They cannot compete on your behalf. Let them fight for their own races."
But Marksby turns to him and demands,
"Show me where in the rules it says that you cannot compete on behalf of another race."
The organizer is flustered. You don't need an insight check to tell you that it's obvious there is no such ruling. Marksby has found a loophole. And eventually Leonates explodes.
This is typical tiefling trickery. You people are all the same. And you!"
He jabs a finger at the party.
"Shame on you for going along with these shenanigans. No good will come of this. Mark my words."
As soon as Leonates is gone, Marksby almost collapses. It's clear that he was in even more pain than he was letting on. He tells the party to come with him. If they are serious about helping him, they're going to need to prepare. At this point, Marksby leads the party down a set of spiral stairs to the backstage area, which is located underneath the arena. Here they see all manner of warriors of different races limbering up, sharpening swords and giving each other last-minute pep talks. Marksby takes the party over to a dim corner where his team have made camp, and he explains the situation to them. And Marksby wasn't lying, his team look in a very bad way. On a perception or insight check of 15, the tieflings look at the party with a mix of hope and distrust. You can tell that they aren't really used to strangers helping them, especially not strangers from outside their race. On a history or nature check of 13, you learn that tieflings are pretty much viewed as second-hand citizens by most of the other races on the continent. Many consider them not even a real race, since they have no lands or titles to their names. Kind of like gypsies in the real world, they are shunned by some and outright attacked by others. After all, everyone knows that the tieflings are a cursed race, born with a demonic taint on their soul. They cannot be trusted, and the only reason they're allowed to compete at all is because they do all of the dirty jobs in society, and they would riot if they were left out. Anyway, take this time to explain how the World Games are going to work across the 2 days. Day 1 is all about the team event, the melee. The whole party is going to fight in a melee combat against an assortment of monsters. Each team takes it in turns and gets 30 seconds, i.e. 5 rounds, to do as much damage as possible. Afterwards, each party member is scored out of 10 based on how well they dealt with the monsters, giving a total team score out of 40. On day 2, it's all about individual events. There are 6 challenges, each one based on one of the 6 core D&D stats, so strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. Each party member must choose one event to participate in. Each party member must choose a different event, and the choice must be made before knowing what the challenge is. As on day 1, each participant is scored out of 10 for a total team score out of 40. On both days, there are 3 core rules to keep in mind as the DM. 1, it is forbidden to interfere with another team while they are competing. Doing so will result in instant disqualification for the offending party member and a score of 0. 2, it is forbidden to do anything that will harm members of the crowd. Doing so will result in instant disqualification for the offending party member and a score of 0. And 3, if a party member is KO'd, they are disqualified from the round, but they will not be permitted to die thanks to the intervention of emergency paramedic clerics stationed on standby. Having explained how things are going to work, you may then move to the opening ceremony. Read this flavor text. The preparations are complete, and it's time to take to the stage. Before going out, you line up together by the main entrance to wait for the signal. For a moment you look over and see the human wizard Horton Bellwether staring at you, a noticeably sour look in his eye as he strokes his long white beard. But you don't have any time to think about that, as a moment later you hear a shout, "Go!" And suddenly you're half walking, half being pushed out into the blazing light. You're dazzled for a moment by the stadium lights, as all around you there is a roar of sound, blaring trumpets, and the cheers of thousands ring in your ears. "Ladies and gentlemen, and other creatures of no particular gender," you hear the announcer boom in his magically enhanced voice. "I present to you this year's challenges for the 50th World Games. The Dragonborn, the Gnomes, the Halflings." There are deafening cheers in response to each of the names. "The Tieflings, who this year have decided to flaunt tradition by sending a bunch of nobodies to fight on their behalf." A massive wave of boos erupts from the crowd as the party are pelted with rotten fruit. "Go back to the 9 L's, you demon lovers," someone heckles from the sidelines. The announcer continues, "And finally, back once more to see if they can win an unprecedented 8 times in a row, the humans!" The loudest cheer of all erupts around the arena. At a signal from the game officials, you all take your starting places. This is it now. No turning back. The World Games are about to begin. Bring out this battle map and position the party within the central circle. One by one, each of the 4 entrances to the arena will open and a monster emerges. These monsters are, in order of appearance, a saber-toothed tiger, an ogre, a flail snail, and a helmed horror. Throughout the fight, pay attention to the 3 core rules, in particular the rule about not hurting anyone in the crowd. This may become relevant should your party decide to start throwing AoE spell effects around too close to the arena edge. In addition, there are the following lair actions. On an initiative count of 20, choose 1 spell from the following list: Mind Slither, Hold Person, Phantasmal Force, or Slow. The party are unsure where these spells are coming from. On a passive perception of 20, or a perception roll of 15, but this would require an action on their turn, The party spots the human wizard Horton Bellwether standing to one side of the arena, casting a spell. If you call Horton out, he will be incensed. The human team will accuse you of being bad losers. If you attack him, of course, he will be disqualified and your points for the day scrubbed clean in accordance with Rule 1 of the games. And if you appeal to the judges, they will take Horton's side. They've known him for years, they trust him implicitly, he's a hero of the games, he knows the rules better than anyone else. There is no way at all that he would cheat by casting spells on you in the middle of your melee. What's really going on here? Well, in truth, of course, all of the judges are actually bewitched by Horton. They've fallen prey to some very high-level enchantment magic, and thanks to this, they will always take Horton's side and they will grant the human team maximum points wherever it's possible. Using Detect Thoughts or Detect Magic would reveal this enchantment on the judges, but any attempt to remove the enchantment will be blocked by Horton. Make it clear to the party that at this stage, with so many people watching, there is little chance that the party will be able to walk out of the direct challenge alive. They need to build up more evidence. At the end of day 1, the humans of course utterly dominate the leaderboard with 37 out of 40 points. Horton the wizard stood in the middle of the arena casting buffs on the party, while the rest of his team stood with their backs to him and dealt with the enemy. But no matter how well the party performed during the melee, have the judges mark them harshly, point out every single little mistake they made during the fight, including any times that they missed or were hurt, and they will receive a score of 24. Respectable, but far from first place. They seem to be judging you very harshly. You believe it's because of your outsider status. The crowd clearly aren't on your side, following the perceived sneakiness of your entrance, coupled with the unpopularity of the tieflings. Exhausted after the day's events, the party retreats to their room to recuperate. All of the competitors have rooms set aside near the spire, and the party goes back with Marksby to his accommodations to refresh themselves and prepare for the next day. It's not a surprise to find that the tieflings have been given the worst accommodation available. It's located up in a drafty tower with hard, rickety beds and terrible food. Allow the party to long rest at this point, and during the night you hear a knock on the door. It is Leonates, the chief adjudicator of the games. He congratulates the party on a good showing in the melee. He then asks them, bluntly, how much it would take for the party to simply walk away from the competition. He offers the party 10,000 gold pieces. This is the same as the prize money for winning the competition.
There's no shame in forfeiting, he tells the party. Lots of teams have done so in previous years. Come up with an excuse. No one will be any the wiser.
If you refuse, he gets angry.
You are not tieflings. Why do you care what happens to this team?
Refuse a second time, and he will proclaim,
in that case, I cannot make promises about what will happen tomorrow. I have gone along with this nonsense so far, but be assured, these games can be very treacherous.
This, by the way, counts as an intimidation roll of 12. The party must each make a charisma saving throw against this number, or suffer a point of exhaustion as they lie awake all night, worrying about the next day. Day 2, and immediately have the party roll initiative, and then from highest to lowest, allow the party to choose one of the events that they will participate in. The events are, of course, Strength, Dexterity, Constitution, Wisdom, Intelligence, and Charisma. You're not going to play all 6 of them, but yeah, these are the 6 that there are. This choice, of course, must be made blind before they know what it will entail. Each event is designed to take only a few minutes to complete, so the rest of your table doesn't get bored, while still providing a good level of challenge and room for creativity in solving. After each event, the judges score the competitor based on how well they performed. However, no matter how well your party do, you will always score them 6 out of 10. This is a little bit of an in-joke, by the way, because it means that their final score will be 6, 6, 6, 6. Obviously, this is 1 6 greater than the mark of the devil, and as tieflings, that's what they are. So yeah, let's go through these in order. Strength. The strength challenge is all about wrestling an owlbear. Bring out the battle map from day 1 and place the owlbear on the central circle. Place your party member 10 feet away from it in any direction, and the object of the round is to make the owlbear touch the edge of the arena as fast as possible. They can do this either by grappling the owlbear, by KOing it and dragging it out of the ring, or by some other magical means. The owlbear will use its turns to make life as miserable for the combatants as possible. It is not trying to get you out of the ring, by the way, it just wants to kill you. Dexterity. The dexterity challenge is about running an obstacle course. Bring out this battle map, which is made up of a series of wooden platforms suspended 10 feet above the arena floor. Place your party member on the X on the left of the map. The goal is to run from one end of the course to the other as quickly as possible. Record how many rounds it takes your party member to complete the course, with each round being 6 seconds. The player may use their action to dash, but this of course means that any checks or saves will be made at disadvantage. If at any point your party member falls off the course, they take a 10-second time penalty and 1d6 bludgeoning damage. They can then attempt the obstacle again. The first part is all about swinging axes. There are 3 of them which require an acrobatics check to avoid, and you take damage on a hit. If you get hit by more than 2 of them, you fall off the platform. The second challenge is all about jumping across a series of platforms. Each platform randomly shoots up a jet of fire, and as the player crosses them, ask them to roll a d4, and on a roll of 1 or 2, the platform will shoot fire at them, requiring a dexterity saving throw. You take fire damage on a hit, and if you get hit by 2 or more, you fall off the platform. The third challenge is all about running across rolling logs. It's a pure acrobatics check, and if you fail, you fall off. However, you can choose to take your time on the obstacle and get advantage on the roll, but it then will take you twice as long to cross. Finally, the most complicated part is in the last section, where there is a floating beholder. It's not really a beholder, it's made out of papier-mâché and wood, but it floats around the platform, making complete revolution once every 4 turns. If he sees you at any point, he will shoot at you with a bolt of force lightning, doing damage. Next up is the Constitution Challenge, which is all about, well, not dying under strenuous circumstances, really. A pillar of magically summoned water with a radius of 30 feet and a height of 200 feet fills the middle of the arena. At the top of the pillar floats a wooden platform on which there are 5 potions. The object of the round is to get to the top and drink one of the potions before returning to the ground. Some of the potions are harmless, others are very harmful. You will be judged on how much damage you take during your journey and how long it takes to complete the challenge. The red potion is thick and opaque. It looks like paint except that it sparkles slightly and seems to move independently to how you swirl it in the jar. It is a potion of lava swimming. For the next 24 hours you are immune to fire damage. However, you are in exchange extremely allergic to water. Water has the same effect on you that lava normally does, and lava becomes like water. The orange potion smells of oranges and looks like a glass of orange juice, and it is indeed a glass of orange juice. The yellow potion smells pungent, like rotten onions mixed with old shoes. The liquid is very thin and is actually sewage water. If you drink it, you will need to pass a Constitution saving throw or become poisoned for the next 12 hours. The green potion is very watery. It hisses angrily when you shake it. It is a vial of acid. If you drink it, you need to take a Constitution saving throw, and on a fail, of course, you take acid damage. The blue potion smokes slightly when you shake it. It is a potion of polymorph that transforms you into an octopus for 1 hour. In addition to the potions, note that the summoned water is highly pressurized. Therefore, the following rules apply. A creature can only hold its breath in the pillar of water for a number of rounds equal to 1 plus its Constitution modifier, minimum of 1. After this time, they must pass a DC 13 Constitution saving throw each round, taking a point of exhaustion on a fail. Wisdom now, and I basically stole this one from Ocarina of Time. So there's a corridor before you with a door at the end. The door is locked. You can't get through it. And positioned on either side of the corridor, there are 6 identical paintings of a serene landscape. If you look closely, you'll notice that the paintings are all animated. The grass and the trees are blowing slightly in the breeze. However, as you're looking, an arrow suddenly flies out and will strike you in the back. On a perception roll, you will notice that there is actually an attacker, a little figure inside one of the paintings, who then immediately disappears off the side of the painting. And as soon as he disappears, you then feel another arrow shoot out of the painting and hit you in the back. It turns out that the paintings are actually portals into a kind of pocket dimension. If you walk off the frame of one of the paintings, you will move randomly into another of the paintings. It is possible to enter and exit a painting by simply stepping into or out of it, and if you do so, you find yourself in this surreal liminal space where distance feels strange and everything seems flat. If you look towards the edges of the painting, all you see is swirling mist, and if you walk into that mist, you appear in a random painting, just like the archer. The archer has the key to the door in his pocket. Any chance he gets, he's going to run away from you into another painting and shoot at you from there. The only way to stop him is to either attack him from outside the painting, or the wisest course of action is to simply destroy 5 of the paintings, leaving only 1 active. And now, when the archer tries to leave the edge of the painting, he's going to find himself trapped. And at this point, you can attack him as normal. Intelligence. 3 doors stand in front of you. Behind these 3 doors, there are 3 more doors, and behind those, there are 3 more doors. 10 minutes ago, a creature of some description walked through the doors from one side of the arena to the other. You need to do 2 things. First, you need to identify the route which the creature took, i.e. the doors that he or she opened, and second, you need to pick out the correct creature from a lineup at the end. Points are going to be rewarded for the speed and logic of your deductions and will be removed for incorrect guesses. You basically need to roll a series of investigation checks here. So the first arena is made up of sand. There are footprints leading to the left door, and you can also see some claw marks on the door where whatever creature it was scratched the handle. The correct door is number 1. In the second arena, there's a series of stepping stones over water, and you'll notice that 2 of the stones are wet and splashed with water, where the creature maybe kind of stepped into the water for a moment, then immediately leapt back out. And there are footprints on the far side leading to door number 3. And the third area is made up of thicket. On a high investigation check, you'll notice that there are small tufts of fur caught in the brambles on one of the thickets, and you'll also find a blood trail where the creature apparently caught itself on the brambles. The blood goes to the middle door, and the blood is red. The correct door is number 2. And at the end of the course, you're going to find 5 creatures: a lizard man, a kenku, a tabaxi, a yuan-ti, and a leonin. You do some insight checks, you can do some nature checks, you can kind of look around, and you're going to find, well, basically, the tabaxi is the one that's missing the tuft of fur, and he has a wet paw and he has a bleeding paw. Putting all of the clues together, however, even if you didn't spot all of these things, there should be sufficient clues here to piece it together. And the answer is the tabaxi. And finally, charisma. This is a very straightforward one, but it allows a lot of license for you as a DM to interpret. So basically, mark out a 30-foot radius circle in the arena. A dog sits in the middle of the circle, chewing happily on a bone. He's very comfortable, he is very happy, he has lots of toys, lots of food, lots of water, lots of bedding. And your job is simply to convince the dog to leave that circle without entering the circle yourself. Points are scored for the speed and the ingenuity with which you can convince the animal to follow you. And at the end of all of that, the humans basically score 10 in every single event, slightly less, giving them a final score of 71 across the 2 days. As already mentioned, the tieflings are going to get 6 in every single event. 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6 is 24. Added to the 24 from the day before means 48 out of 80 possible points. At this point, the humans are proclaimed the winners. They go up onto the podium to collect their reward. Horton graciously accepts the winner's medal and announces that following a request from the judges, these will be his final games. He is retiring in order to take up a position as an adjudicator. He then says that although he is delighted to accept this prize on behalf of the human race, he does feel that this year's event was tarnished somewhat by bad faith actors. He will declare that his first act as game adjudicator will be to ban the tieflings from participating in next year's event, a decision that the crowd are extremely happy about. Allow the party to step in and interject if they want to. If they don't want to, then I guess the one shot is over because, they're going to be escorted out of the premises by armed guards and they won't be allowed to ever return. So, they should probably interject. So if they do decide to intervene, the crowd is going to start booing at them. The adjudicators are going to accuse you of being bad losers. Keep calling them out, however, and the wizard will stand up, his staff aloft, and he'll say,
"It seems you are intent on fighting dirty. Fine, then dirty we shall fight. Then you know what to do."
At this, the 3 human fighters all stand up, their hands on their swords, and instantly the wizard teleports away. Roll initiative and you will fight in the arena with Adam, Hugh and Norm all entering from the stands at the top. Have Horton appear during the 3rd round of combat, with him misty stepping into the arena at the start of his turn. This does count as his bonus action for the round, but it does not count as him having cast a leveled spell. Whenever one of the human fighters is killed, they fall to the ground as a pile of slushy snow and ice. On an Arcana check of 15, you realise that they must be simulacra. This explains why they all look so similar. They were literally duplicates of each other in thrall to Horton. The moment that Horton is killed, his robes will crumple to the ground in a pile of sparkling blue glitter. They are empty, and as they hit the ground, a magical shockwave booms out, raking across the arena, and instantly, in a flash, any remaining human fighters vanish, transforming into mounds of slushy ice before fading away. The judges and the chief adjudicator Leonates kind of stumble back, blinking their eyes as if emerging from a daze, and around you, you hear the crowd has fallen eerily silent as Leonates looks up at you and says,
"What's going on here?"
Well, after the dust has settled, everyone finally figures out what's been going on, and it turns out that the humans have secretly been manipulating the games for years in order to guarantee that they will always win. Most of the other races have actually had their warriors hand-picked by the humans, which explains why so many of them were so clearly unprepared. The judges were all charmed and bewitched, so they had no idea that they were subconsciously showing preference to the humans. All in all, it was a massive ruse orchestrated by Horton, the master puppeteer, and the only thing that he'd failed to account for was the tiefling team, because he was a massive racist and had just underestimated them. Leonates frowns as he realizes just how deeply rooted this corruption must go, how long it must have been going on for, and how many people must have been affected by it.
"I see I have my work cut out for me,"
he says. And so we come to the end of the 50th World Games, a 2-day event that will go down in infamy as one of the turning points in the continent's history. Shortly after these events, the results of the games were scrubbed clean. It was decided to have a redo, and this time the games were won fairly by the elves. The tieflings did compete, and your friend Marksby succeeded in coming a very respectable 3rd place. The humans, however, refused to take part. Shortly afterwards, they withdraw from the Accords entirely, withdrawing into themselves to rule over their own little pocket of the continent, cut off from the other races. Few people go into their realm these days, but you have heard rumours that they've actually started banning tieflings from inside their borders, and there are whispers of civil unrest and martial law. As for your party, well, they're going to go down in history as the heroes who cleaned up the World Games and uncovered its corruption. They take the prize money and they ride off into the sunset, rich, famous and happy, the true victors of the 50th World Games. So that's it for the one-shot. I have run it myself a few times and I've always had a lot of fun with it. I think the party seem to quite enjoy the premise on this one. It's quite straightforward and it doesn't outstay its welcome. Have fun with it. In the description underneath this video, you're going to find links to all of the information, all of the character art, all of the stat blocks, all of the battle maps, everything that you will need if you want to run this session yourself. Go ahead, have at it. In the meantime, have a really good rest of your week. Thank you for watching this video and yeah, take care of yourselves.